Hi guys, I am back with another flip through. This one's a short little sketchbook. I made this one when I was doing a tutorial. Somebody asked me, "Hey, how do you make your sketchbooks?" And I made this one as like a little photo tutorial. I'll put a link to it down below if you are interested in it. And it's from like my Tumblr from like a year ago. And then I decided I might as well use it up. And I used drawing paper in this one, so I think it's like 60 pounds, something like that. So it's meant for color pencil, maybe some ballpoint pen, but it really couldn't handle anything beyond that, like anything that was even a little bit wet. So like marker, ink, watercolor, couldn't really handle that. So it was kind of a challenge to play around with what would and what wouldn't work. So kind of had to keep that in mind. It did bleed through a couple times, but I'm fairly decent at covering that up at this point. It also handled acrylic fairly well, which people always ask me. They're like, "Oh, what kind of sketchbook would you use for acrylic painting?" And I find like most of them actually work. Like unless your paper's really, really thin, most drawing papers work for acrylic. Yeah, you'll get a little bit of buckling, but in all honesty, it's not that bad because it's actually not as wet as like watercolor or marker or ink. So it handles fairly well. It doesn't bleed through or anything like that. And yeah, so in terms of that, like I could recommend basically any major sketchbook that isn't like really terrible. It's my favorite pair of shoes. There's no theme for the sketchbook. I just drew basically anything that caught my eye. My own plants and stuff like that. I've been trying to draw more from my own kind of photos and stuff like that. Although it's kind of hard. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Very anarchist. Also, I love how it's with a cow. Like, it's the cow. The cow is the anarchist. This is a lino print I tried, and I made the unfortunate decision of using Tombow markers to put it in, and it did bleed through, unfortunately, but I think I managed to cover it up fairly well. Like, I used some acrylic paint, and you can see a little tiny bit, but because it's like a small sketchbook, I'm really not going to be too upset about that. You know, you live and learn and all that good stuff. I wrote down a bunch of stuff that I hoped would happen to me in 2020. And then I got like really superstitious that if I wrote it down, it wouldn't happen, you know? Like, I know that's ridiculous, but, but I scratched it all out hoping that that would like undo it. And so far this year has been really great for me. So I think it worked. And this is probably my favorite spread in this sketchbook. This is ballpoint pen, regular pencil, and Posca pen for the pink in the background. And I just love spot color. Like, I love the brightness of that. I think it looks really great. Kind of same deal with this one, which was kind of unintentional. I drew this one first and then kind of went over here. And this was actually sort of, I guess, like a little spoiler alert for a video I'm planning. I'm kind of practicing and experimenting right now with color pencil a lot more, partially because of the sketchbook, because that works the best with this paper. But just in general, I got myself a set of Polychromo Faber-Castell color pencils, which are oil-based. And so far I've been working with Prismacolors, which are wax-based, and kind of seeing the difference between that. And I wanted to do a comparison video to show people what the difference was, which one worked better in what scenario, all that kind of thing. And I decided to throw in there just like a really, really cheap color pencil. So I bought myself like a 32 pack that was like $4 of Crayola color pencils, and they've actually been really great. Like, they've been, like, no joke, I reach more for them than I do for my Prismacolors now, because like they kind of work the same way. Obviously the blending isn't there as much, they're not as easy to blend, but they're pretty great, all things considering. Though, like, the price is so cheap, and because you're not really worried about them, you paid so little for them, you know, I just chuck them in my backpack and I don't worry about like them breaking or anything like that. Unlike Prismacolors, which you need to like literally carry them around in bubble wrap because they're so delicate. So I had a lot of fun with this one. A lot more stylized, and you know, compared to this is Prismacolor, and here's a lot more like realistic. It's a lot more like, there's a very different vibe obviously between these two. So here blending was a lot more kind of important in that. So. And this is probably my second favorite page. This is a quote from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This is in crayon, and this is color pencil. Danny DeVito. And I'm not used to drawing people with an actual expression. I realized that when I was drawing him, that because I get most of like my reference photos from models and stuff like that, they all have the exact same expression and they're all like so smooth and pretty. And drawing Danny DeVito was very different. You know, he's smiling, he's showing his teeth, there's lots of like smile wrinkles and everything. And I loved that. I loved trying like, because it was a lot harder for me and I was going for a very realistic vibe here. And I love, you know, trying something out like that, and realized that, you know, I should go for more different expressions kind of going forward. This was, there's a trend right now, I think it's a trend, of people like making up their own emojis. And this is the one I came up with. This is like the bone deep exhaustion of working in customer service. Very different vibe from this page, which this was color Crayola again. Had a lot more fun playing around with these different color tones, which kind of extended to the rest of the sketchbook. I kind of just busted out the last few pages in the last sort of day, which was yesterday. And I had painted a thing in another sketchbook with lots of these colors. I think it was an ocean. And I had a ton of paint left over because I'm trying to use up these little sample paints that I've had for years now. So I was put out a lot more than I need. And I realized, okay, well, I'm just going to draw a bunch of people. And I've come to the realization that I've tried to paint acrylic faces and people a couple times now, and I never really enjoy the process. Like sometimes I do, but 99% of the time I don't. And I think the reason why is because of skin tones. I always go more towards these like very vivid, very bright kind of colors. I don't really enjoy using like those neutrals, which are like the pinkish, peaches, browns, that kind of thing of skin tones. And so I think a big thing that's been holding me back is that I'm not loving those colors, and so I don't enjoy that process. And once I switched it up, once I did these like weird little alien people with like green skin or whatever, I realized I love the process. Like I really enjoy drawing or painting these portraits because of that, because I wasn't as worried about skin tones and stuff. And it still looks, in my opinion, fair, like you recognize it's a person, obviously. So I had a lot of fun with these, and I kind of did a couple more later on. And I realized, you know, maybe that's what's been holding me back, is that I'm not loving using or trying to get realistic skin tones. So I did these, and then I painted this little meerkat and a peach. And then I did the same thing again. I used what was left over from the peach. I ran out of green, but I had the rest of them, and I just had a lot of fun, and it made me sort of approach it in a different way. Whereas, like, okay, normally you have a whole range of color. Here I was like, okay, I've got yellow, I've got orange, I've got red. So red is going to be my sort of darkest color, and the rest I kind of have to sort of play around with in terms of like what I can do. And it kind of made me approach it in a different way, and I've, you know, kind of really loving that, like not having to worry about like mixing the perfect skin color, because yeah, that has been really hard for me. I don't know why, but I'm not loving it. So like this page here, this is probably my favorite singular page of this whole sketchbook. I just really love how this looks, and not that I don't like this one, it's just like really love the way this one turned out, and it's just been really fun to try that out. So yeah, so that's been this sketchbook. Here's the last page. I was waiting for these two to dry, and I've been babysitting my mom's geriatric dog. We went for a walk, and she always takes her time because she's pretty old. She's 14, and one of the people on our block has this tree stump with a little sapling coming out of it. And I just really love that idea. I love the perseverance of nature. So that became the last page. So yes, that's this little sketchbook. Thanks for watching. I've got another one already ready to go because I've been trying to use up paper. So this is going to be the next one here. And yeah, so hopefully get that going. It'll take me a while probably, because it always does. So yes, this one's all finished. And I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments below if you had a favorite page or if you have any thoughts or anything like that. And I will see you guys next time.